What's up, Rockstars? Today I'm going to tell you about a price hike for Games Workshop stuff and also why it's total BS. Now, a quick clarification. At the end, I'm going to explain kind of my view on companies like this, and especially publicly traded companies. So we'll have a comment on that afterwards, especially with how much profit a company should make and what the ideal looks like for consumers and companies at the very end. But first, the issue. So, pricing update. As you can see, huge update. Oh my gosh, we've never seen this before, of course. On March 6th, you will see about a 6% increase in the price of plastic kits. Actually, plastic miniatures, Forge World and Citadel resin miniatures, standard and artificer Citadel brushes, and spray paints are all going to be, on average, increased 6%. Now, why is that? Why is there a price increase? We're sure it hasn't escaped your notice that a lot of things are more expensive than they used to be. Food, materials, transport, essentials, and luxuries alike. Stuff costs more to make and more to move, and Warhammer is not immune to these changes. Okay, so that is kind of the short blurb without any actual finite detail or anything like that given as an excuse to this. I'm going to explain why this is total BS, and I'm going to laugh at the reasons they gave in just a moment. But just to clarify, in no way did the cost of 8 Hips manufacturing, the cost of their resin that they use, and I don't know if they use vacuum chambers or anything like that. I don't feel they use vacuum chambers. I think I still get a lot of holes in mine, but whatever. Brushes and spray paint stuff, all those have increased to varying degrees, and it's just kind of, they're averaging around that and kind of updating it accordingly is the idea anyway. But don't think that it's like some set amount. Now, they're just saying, hey, stuff's more expensive to move and make. Okay, so manufacturing costs, shipment costs have gone up, right? Okay, so with that in mind, let's go in and take a look over at this. Now, what this is the 2022 financial report that they give to shareholders, people that own parts of the company, that actually get like dividends for how many shares they hold and stuff like that. And the actual head chair's statement, they say, and I kid you not, I'm delighted that once again we are reporting outstanding results in our financial period ended 29th of May 2022. So this is their very last one they've had, with core revenue exceeding £386 million and profit before tax of £156 million. This performance is even more impressive because it has been delivered against a backdrop of the following ongoing global challenges: global inflationary pressures, the uncertainty arising from the current war in Ukraine, and the well-publicized supply chain issues that all international businesses are facing. Now, that supply chain issue is exactly what they're talking about here. Just the cost of getting the material, using it, and then moving it, right? All of that is kind of this big supply chain. And so it's ironic that in the same thing that they're saying, hey, we had a outstanding result, even though we're dealing with this. And then to say, hey, we're dealing with this, so we need to increase the price, is kind of funny to me that they would use the exact same thing. And when talking to their shareholders, saying everything's great, it's fantastic, we're making tons of money. But when it comes to the consumers, it's, look, guys, we're struggling here. We gotta charge more. We're affected by this. We gotta keep making money, right? You care about us. The reason I find that funny is because of this. Now, how Games Workshop grew to become more profitable than Google. Now, this was written in 2021 on Saturday, July 31st, 2021. This was on The Guardian. But I can promise you it holds true to today, really, too. And what they're talking about here is actually right here. The latest accounts show that last year, so this was 2020, the company made sales of $361 million and an operating profit of 43%. Higher than Google's owner Alphabet Group's margin of about 25%. So they are close to 50% profit. Okay? So, and this is all detailed in here. I'm not going to scroll through this too much. You're going to get dizzy with the scroll. This is very many pages, and it's kind of delivered in a few different spots to really get to the core thing. But suffice it to say, they make a ton of profit on this. So the price that you're charged includes about 50%, close to 50% profit by the time they are done with it. And that's because they were actually working on a few things. Now you see right here, they're actually talking about essentially their operation, right? If we're talking about the operating profit that they have on here, well, this is kind of what they're saying here. So mitigating a approximate 2% or about 8 million decline in core gross margin, right? So in other words, stuff's more expensive. But again, only by 2% here, 8 million, which is a fair challenge. In the year we reviewed our input price increase as they looked more permanent, so we increased our prices on a broader existing range by 5%. We will always, in the short term, continue to absorb some of the cost pressures ourselves. Because again, if you're making profit, you can just make a little bit less profit. You're still profitable, but you now have absorbed the costs and haven't increased anything. We prefer to only increase prices for the additional quality of new miniatures. We are focusing our efforts on efficiency improvements everywhere and further volume growth. So these few things. First of all, they're saying, hey, look, just the new stuff we make, we'll price accordingly to kind of accommodate that, because when you have this thing, you are selling a wide variety of products, and all of those are coming in. So while this might be less profitable, if this is more profitable, they even out. Remember how I talked about how like none of this increased the same amount? Well, if your profit is super high on one thing and less on another, then they equal out to kind of a middle ground, right? In board games, it's like dice. Dice are very cheap to make. It's a very simple mold, and you can inject different plastics to change the color at zero cost. There's no cost from making red ones, from blue ones, to these marble ones, to the sparkle ones, but people spend tons of money on dice. They're super profitable. The profit margin on dice are a lot larger than a profit margin on, say, a board game, right? And so they even out, or the neoprene mat, or the miniatures, or whatever it might be, that all kind of equals into one big mesh. So what they're saying is, hey, we can increase one thing, and it doesn't even look like an increase because it's just a new price, a new product, and it settles this other one. But that's not what they're doing here. What they're doing here is this thing, hey, we're just going to increase everything as well in addition to that, right? But then on top of that, this is the key thing here. We are focusing our efforts on efficiency improvements. In other words, if your cost goes down, your profit goes up. So as long as you continue to improve, and they talk about their warehousing and different things like that. They're talking about a new ERP system, and they held that off. And there's all sorts of different stuff that they are doing as a company that can help them save money so that they have no change and they can accommodate a small percentage of profit difference and further volume growth. Because see, there's this. Now, let's say you sell 1,000 Warhammer sets, right, of whatever. Right? Now, let's say you're making a tiny bit less, right? Let's say 2% less of profit now on that, right? Or whatever it is. Let's say 6% less on profit. It costs more to make those. But now instead of selling 1,000, you sold 1,500. Well, because your volume has increased, your overall profits have actually increased. That's right. Even according to their latest quarter, they have increased their profit, their cash, all sorts of stuff has been improved. Their revenue is looking fantastic. They are doing extremely well. And they are still making tons of money. They are not hurting for this 6%. It's just an excuse they can give to you when they use the exact same logic to tell their shareholders everything's fine because we're selling more, we're more efficient, and we're just increasing future stuff. So they've told them that and told them that. They're talking out of both sides of their mouth, and it's total BS. Now, this is the disclaimer I wanted to kind of wrap things up with when it comes to companies, because it might seem like I think companies just shouldn't make profit. I think that's totally wrong. I am all for consumers getting a great deal and being happy. And to do that, you need a successful company, because a company that's desperate for money is desperate, and desperation has them do crazy things. It means you either don't get your product at all and they fold, or they sell out to other things, or they start pricing things ridiculously and in a very predatory way, worse than even Games Workshop. I mean, like, you can get really bad if you're desperate, right? So suddenly things that were free are no longer free and stuff like that. So you can do all sorts of nastiness if a company is desperate, or they can't hire the best talent, and the good talent leaves and the bad talent comes in, and they only can afford that, and so the stuff they're making is less, or they cheap out on the product. Or there's countless ways that a company that is really struggling can not hurt consumers. So ideally, in an ideal world, there's a company that is making good money and is happy with their profits and doing well, hiring great, making great stuff, and selling at a great price for consumers to both enjoy and continue to purchase. That's that kind of ideal marriage. Now, obviously that never happens, and that's because of these shareholders, because the idea that a company must constantly grow is what eventually kills companies. It's what kills the big companies. If you think about 50 years ago, what the big tech companies were, and now 50 years on, what the big tech companies are, and how they've managed and how they're still going around and stuff like that, you'll see that the issue is that eventually you hit your kind of natural market cap, right? How much market share you hold. And then the only way to continue to grow, because you have to keep growing. If you made 50 million in profit, you now need to make more than 50 million in profit the next time. If you had a great year, then you must have an even better next year, or they're going to be upset. Even if it's better than the year before that, they're looking at year-over-year growth every single year. You are doing better than last year, regardless. Did you have an explosion in 2019? Well, 2020 better have an even bigger explosion, and an even bigger explosion, and an even bigger explosion. To infinity. It's insatiable. There is no limit to that. So then you have to start buying companies and expanding things and changing things and not sharing passwords on Netflix and all that sort of stuff, right? Netflix has kind of had that, right? They've had it to where, okay, we've now kind of got the market cap we can easily get. So now we need to find out how to get more. Okay, free. Okay, so let's do that. So now we're doing that. Not sharing. So now we're going to do that. And then they'll do this and they'll do that and they'll do originals and they'll buy this company and that. And eventually they get so big, and this isn't just Netflix, right? You can think HP or any other company like that. All these kind of big companies have been around a while. So big that a new upcoming company is finally able to just do better than you, do quicker than you, and ends up being the top dog. And then they start petering out, right? You can think of like Facebook or something like that for this, right? And suddenly they're too big, and they're the big ones that can't move anymore. And it just repeats over and over and over again. So as long as Games Workshop is publicly traded, they will continue to try and grow and maximize as much as possible. Some of that will be stuff like just efficiencies. Some of that will be stuff like just pricing new things better and looking at kind of their whole spectrum of what they offer and their different channels of revenue and all that sort of stuff. And some of it will be total BS, like sending you, oh, hey, stuff costs more, so we're not making as much money as possible, so we need to increase our prices by 6%. It's just BS, is all it is. And the fact that they use the exact same logic to have two completely different results, depending on who they're talking to, shows how full of BS they truly are. Agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys again very, very soon with some more news. There are some updates on some big board games coming out that I'll be talking about. Of course, there is actually a table I'll be showing off for gaming. And yes, playing Warhammer. That means I'll be talking about playing Warhammer on it as well. So stay tuned for that. And guys, again, thank you so very much. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye, guys.